Back in the day when Katie and I were still at the helm here at the Heartland, one of the things that I always look forward to was this little kind of handmade little booklet with drawings of, and it said ultra local geography. And we are honored today.
With great drawings, Larry.
With great
drawings.
So we've got Larry Shure, the creator of that, and he is in the architectural preservation field. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. I remember those booklets really well. I kind of miss them. I don't miss standing in front of the Xerox like I used to, but I miss having them in hand. It was kind of nice.
So you don't do the actual booklet anymore?
No, I don't do the booklet anymore. It's all online now.
And it's pretty wonderful. I actually was online this morning looking at the Ultra Local Geography blog site, and you had these drawings of and a lot of information on Arthur Street.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you
cool.
try to do when you go into the neighborhood and you come out with some drawings or ideas, some information.
That kind of was a little bit unusual for me because a friend of ours wanted some information on their house, and they wanted a drawing. And I usually don't do. I don't sell drawings, but I thought that this would be an interesting thing to do because it was an interesting block. So I started to do a drawing of one of the houses, and naturally, you're looking at one, you sort of start to look at everything, and amazingly, there's quite a bit of information out there. This block kind of represented a sort of a single development in 1915. With about 7 different types of stucco bungalows.
100 west of Arthur is that?
That is just west of Clark, between Clark and the railroad.
The railroad. Yeah, that's
embankment.
a beautiful street.
You know, another thing I saw on your blog that I found really interesting was you had a report about a kind of a shootout of a gang. Do you remember that? Can you tell us what that was about? I mean, it was real action stories about bandits and robbing each other here in Rogers Park.
So that also had kind of an interesting background story. Is a few years ago I was doing a project where I was looking at all the buildings on the corners of Clark Street from Devon all the way down to Howard, and I would post these.
That's up to Howard for us geographers.
Right. So I would post these images of these buildings with a little bit of history and a little bit of analysis, and somebody got in touch with me and they said, well, I saw the picture of this building, and that building has haunted me because that was where my father was shot and killed in 1945.
Wow.
And
what do you say to that?
Yeah, what do you say to that? I mean, so I was kind of shocked and surprised, but I never forgot it. And there came a time when I said, well, let's find out a little bit more about that. And sure enough, there was this double murder of 2 policemen in 1945 on the corner of Lunt and Clark. And
Close to home.
Very close to home. And, I could pretty much go there and stand exactly where it happened because the newspapers published images and maps and everything. So that became my challenge, is how to research that story, how to tie it back to the physical geography of the city, and how to make it kind of immediate to people. And that became sort of a very interesting project, just researching through the primary sources and newspapers and kind of putting it all together in a way that made sense.
Larry Shure, would you describe to someone what ultra local geography is? I mean, geography, I know, is no longer just maps. It's like, the interaction of place and forces of social, economic, political things. It's kind of exciting field. What is your niche in that with the ultra local geography?
Well, the overall idea is that every place has importance. What I try to do in Rogers Park and a little bit in Westridge is to limit myself enough so that I have to look at places and go a little bit more deeply into what the underlying history and development and importance of those places might be, and then try and present that in a way that's accessible. That people find engaging, and that might encourage them to kind of look at their own, where they live, a little bit more deeply. And I don't know if it's done that, but it's certainly done that for me. So that's the sort of philosophy behind it, I guess.
Just a couple other things. What is being an anti-tourist in your own neighborhood?
Oh.
You come up with some great lines.
Yeah, I'm not. It's funny because I'm not exactly sure what I meant, but part of what I was thinking was, when we go on vacations, we generally go to places that we find interesting and engaging, and the question
and that have a pool.
And it does not hurt to have a pool.
We do not have
with two little boys. The pool is a necessity.
Yes.
But one of the things that you don't always ask yourself is, well, why are these places so interesting and engaging? And part of that is because you sense all of these patterns and underlying relationships that are fascinating, but it's not, and it's different from your home, But the truth is that if you stood back and looked at your own home with the same eyes that you look at a city that you're visiting on vacation, you realize how little you know, and there's paths open up to you to try and understand not just what's immediately around you, but kind of the larger world. And vacations are one of the few times when you're relaxed enough to let that happen. And part of what I do is to try and look at my neighborhood with the same eyes that a stranger might look at it.
Larry Shure, how did you end up here? How did you end up being a geographer, ultra-local geographer? Where do you come from? What motivated you and guided you in this direction?
Well, let's see. I've been in Chicago for almost 25 years, and I moved here right after college to do theater, oddly enough. And after a couple of years, I decided that I needed to go back to school, and that's what I did, and I studied historic preservation at the School of the Art Institute. And that was a 2-year program, and when I came out of that, I went to work as a city planner. And that was sort of an eye-opening experience because preservation and city planning are tangentially related, but they're not exactly the same thing. So after a while, I eventually went to work for the City of Chicago's Historic Preservation Division. I should mention that nothing I say here has any bearing on that.
Of course.
He's clean.
All opinions are
Roll over and go back to sleep, Rob. Nothing to see here.
And so working for the city, I deal with sort of the best buildings, which is really fascinating. But those really aren't the best at illustrating these overarching kind of concepts of history and development. What really interests me are kind of the common buildings.
The patterns.
And that's really what makes up the city.
Courtyard buildings in Rogers Park.
Oh, that was a fun project.
So this is the thing. We want to talk to you more about this, but we're out of time.
Okay.
I think we might have bantered too much or listened to Emma Lazarus too long or I don't know what. But
speed it up here.
We're going to bring you back to talk about the non-built environment because one of the big riches about this neighborhood is the lake, the park, murals, the dune restoration, and that's another whole conversation which we'll have next time, Larry.
Well, that would be really interesting. Thank you.
Congratulations on your beautiful family, Felix, Theo, and their mom. Thanks for being here. And Larry, keep on keeping on.
I should mention that we had our wedding reception here.
That's right.
All right on.
I remember that.
And now we bring the kids.
I think we even did tablecloths for that. I believe we did.
We really went all out on it.
I know.
Yeah.
That was the fanciest wedding we ever had at the Heartland.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay,
Lastly, Larry Shure,
Thank you.
Ultra Local Geography here at the Heartland Cafe and in your neighborhood and any neighborhood near you.
Well,